Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we're always talking about how to level up as leaders, right?
Right.
But today we're taking a different approach. We're ditching the usual stuff, like networking,
Yeah.
delegation,
Yeah.
all that, and we're going deeper, like way deeper. We're talking about the power of thought, how the way you think can actually make or break you as a leader.
It's true. We spend so much time focusing on those external skills, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But this is about getting to the core, the power of thought. Really fascinating stuff.
Totally. And our guide for this deep dive is an article called The Power of Thought and Leadership. And let me tell you, it's packed with insights.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a crash course in leading effectively by training your mind.
I like that. A crash course. It gets right to the point.
Exactly. And the core idea here is that it's not enough to just be in charge, right? Great leaders, they cultivate specific thinking styles. It's what sets them apart. And guess what? They can teach these styles to their teams too.
That's powerful. So it's not just about you as a leader, but empowering those around you.
Exactly. So the article dives into 4 key thinking styles: critical, strategic, creative, and adaptive thinking. We're going to unpack all of them today.
Ooh, I'm excited to dig into these.
Me too. Let's start with critical thinking.
Okay, so critical thinking, it's more than just, being critical.
Right. More than just being negative about things.
Yeah, exactly. It's about looking at information objectively, like really stripping away those biases we all have.
Oh, I like that. Stripping away biases.
Yeah.
Because we all have them, right?
Oh, absolutely. We all have our blind spots.
It's like, have you ever made a rash decision, like in the heat of the moment?
Oh, of course. Who hasn't? You make a choice and then you're like, ugh, what was I thinking?
Exactly. And the article actually calls critical thinking an antidote to impulsive choices.
Makes sense.
Because it forces you to hit pause.
Yeah.
Examine all those assumptions you're making and really look at things from different angles.
It's about being more thoughtful, more deliberate in how we approach things.
Totally.
Yeah.
But how does that actually play out in leadership?
Well, a leader with good critical thinking skills, they can actually see problems coming before they blow up into huge crises.
Interesting. So like being proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The article gave this example. Imagine a leader sees their team's productivity tanking.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Right. But instead of freaking out or pointing fingers, they use critical thinking. They gather data, they talk to the team, figure out what's really going on, and then they can actually solve the problem before it gets out of control.
Smart. Okay, so critical thinking helps us really break down what's happening now. But what about the future? That's where strategic thinking comes in, right?
Exactly. It's about that long game, thinking ahead, spotting not just challenges, but also those opportunities down the line.
It's like having a crystal ball, but, one that's based on actual insights and not just like wishful thinking.
Right. Strategic thinking is about seeing the whole picture, connecting all the dots, understanding how all the pieces fit together. The article gave this cool example about a CEO and AI.
AI? Oh, like artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So this CEO, they saw how AI was changing everything. And they didn't just freak out, they went strategic. They invested in training their team on AI, started developing AI solutions for their own business.
Wow. So they turned a potential problem into a huge advantage.
Exactly. It's not just about dodging bullets, it's about spotting those trends and getting ahead of the curve.
That's so key. So it sounds like strategic thinking is this mix of foresight, analysis, and even a bit of risk-taking, right? Calculated risks.
Absolutely. It's about setting a clear vision, then looking at the landscape, understanding the risks, and then making a plan that can handle those twists and turns. It's a bit like chess. You got to think several moves ahead.
Okay, that's cool. So we've talked about critical thinking, strategic thinking. Now let's get creative, shall we? When you hear creative thinking, what pops into your mind?
I think a lot of people think of artists or musicians, those creative types.
Yeah, definitely. But the article really digs into what creative thinking means for leaders.
And it boils down to finding those innovative solutions, thinking outside the box. Those aha moments that can really shake things up.
I like that. Those sparks of inspiration. And the article makes this point that Especially now, creativity is a huge competitive advantage.
Right. It's a rapidly changing world. The old ways just don't cut it anymore.
Totally. And you need that fresh perspective.
Exactly. And the article had this great example about a retail manager. They were seeing their online shopping experience falling behind.
Oh yeah, online shopping can be make or break for a business these days.
For sure. So this manager, they didn't just tweak the website. They used creative thinking to design this whole new interactive virtual shopping experience.
Cool. Like really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. And you know what? Customers loved it. Sales went way up.
See, that's what I love. These thinking styles actually lead to real results. They're not just like theoretical concepts.
Exactly. They're tools for leaders to actually make things happen.
Okay, so we've covered critical, strategic, creative. Last but not least, we got to talk about adaptive thinking. This one feels especially relevant right now. I mean, the world is changing so fast.
It's essential. I mean, think about it. If you're a leader clinging to old ways of thinking, good luck.
Right? Good luck with that.
Adaptive thinking is about being able to roll with those punches, respond to change, learn from those setbacks, and come back stronger.
It's like mental agility, right? Being able to pivot. You know, I had this experience recently that really drove this home for me. I had planned this whole weekend getaway.
Oh, nice. A little seep.
Yeah, but you know what? Everything went wrong. Flight canceled, hotel overbooked. It was a mess.
Oh, no. That's frustrating.
Oh, totally. I was so thrown at first. But then I thought, you know what? Let's make the best of this. Instead of clinging to the original plan, I found this charming little bed and breakfast, explored a new part of the city.
Oh, that's cool.
It turned into this amazing adventure just by embracing the unexpected.
See, that's adaptive thinking in action. And imagine how important that is for leaders, especially when things get rough.
Oh, for sure. And the article actually brought up the pandemic as a prime example. Businesses had to adapt like crazy just to survive.
Right. It was sink or swim. And the ones who pivoted, embraced new tech, figured out the whole new normal thing, they not only survived, they thrived.
It's not just accepting change. It's shaping how you respond to it, turning those challenges into opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. It's about seeing uncertainty, not as a threat, but as a chance to do something new, to evolve.
So an adaptive leader is always learning, always evolving, always finding those new paths.
Perfectly put. They're not afraid to try new things, to experiment, even to make mistakes. Because those mistakes, they're just lessons learned. They get that the only constant is change itself.
So much wisdom there. Okay, so we've covered these 4 incredible thinking styles. Critical for clear analysis, strategic for the big picture, creative for those groundbreaking solutions, and adaptive for navigating all the crazy twists and turns life throws at us. It feels like a truly exceptional leader needs all of them, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about understanding each style's strengths and knowing when to use them. Sometimes you need that laser focus on the data. Sometimes you got to zoom out and see the long game. And sometimes you got to unleash that creative spark.
It's like having this mental toolbox, right? Different tools for different situations.
I like that, a mental toolbox. And the skilled leader, they know which tool to use and when.
Exactly. So how do we actually build up these thinking muscles? Let's start with critical thinking. We talked about how it helps us analyze things objectively.
Right.
But how do we actually use that in, real life, everyday situations?
One of the most powerful things, and the article really highlighted this, is detaching from those immediate emotional reactions.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in your emotions, right?
Yeah.
Especially when there's a problem or things get tough.
Totally. But critical thinking is about taking a step back, creating some space between how you feel and how you react.
So you're not letting your emotions completely drive the bus.
Exactly. It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about acknowledging them, but then choosing to look at the situation objectively. The article suggested asking yourself some questions like,
Oh, I love a good question.
right, like, what am I assuming here? Or what information am I missing? Or even, are there other perspectives I need to consider?
Those are powerful questions. Really helps you see your own blind spots.
It does. For example, say you're leading a team and sales take a nosedive.
Yikes. Not good.
Right. Now, an emotional response might be to blame the sales team, right? Or just panic about the future.
Yeah, that's that knee-jerk reaction.
Exactly. But a critical thinker, they're going to gather the data, look at market trends, talk to customers, maybe even take a hard look at their own processes before making any judgments.
So you're like a detective, gathering evidence, forming your hypothesis based on facts, not just feelings.
Nailed it. And this approach, it not only helps you solve problems better, but it builds trust with your team. They see you're not just reacting emotionally, you're being thoughtful and thorough.
Okay, love that. Now let's shift gears to strategic thinking. We've talked about long-term vision, anticipating those future trends, but how do you actually get that strategic mindset? It feels like, I don't know, it takes years to develop.
It does take practice, that's for sure. And being willing to, step outside your comfort zone a bit. One thing the article suggested, and it's actually really practical, is to schedule time specifically for strategic thinking.
Like literally block it out on your calendar.
Yes, carve out that space to get away from the day-to-day stuff and really think about the big picture.
It's so easy to get lost in the weeds, just putting out fires all day.
Totally. It's like you got to step back from the painting to see the whole canvas, not just get stuck in those tiny details. So during this strategic thinking time, ask yourself those key questions. What big trends are impacting my industry? What challenges and opportunities are coming down the pipeline? How can I position my team or my whole organization to not just survive, but thrive in the future?
So it's a mix of looking at those external forces, understanding what you got going on internally, and then making a plan that aligns with that long-term vision.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about avoiding threats. It's about spotting those opportunities that are emerging.
Like that CEO of the AI example, right? They saw the potential disruption coming and turned it into a strength.
Precisely. That's the power of strategic thinking. You're not just reacting to the future, you're shaping it.
Okay, so we've covered critical, strategic. Now let's tap into that creative energy. How do leaders unlock their creative potential? And even better, how do they create a culture of creativity on their teams?
The article really emphasized creating a space where people feel safe to share ideas, even those ideas that might seem, a little out there.
Yeah, like no idea is a bad idea, right? At least at first.
Exactly. You want people to feel comfortable thinking outside the box. It's about encouraging experimentation, where even those failures are seen as learning opportunities.
Oh, I love reframing failure like that. It's so ingrained in us to be afraid to fail. But in a creative environment, those setbacks can be like gold mines.
Totally. It's about shifting from a fear of failing to like, okay, what did I learn from that? The article also talked about challenging the status quo, asking those what-if questions, and brainstorming sessions where all ideas are welcome, no matter how wild they might seem.
So you're building that culture of trust, that vulnerability, where people feel safe to take risks and share those wild ideas.
Exactly. Because sometimes those crazy ideas, those are the ones that lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
Remember that retail manager and the interactive shopping experience? Maybe it started as a what-if, but it totally revolutionized their business.
Exactly. You never know where that next big idea is going to come from.
Okay, so last but not least, we got to talk about adaptive thinking. We've touched on how crucial it is for navigating all this change and uncertainty. But how do leaders actually develop this skill? The world's not slowing down anytime soon.
Right. It's only getting faster.
Yeah.
And one of the most fundamental things about adaptive thinking is accepting that change is just part of the game.
So not fighting it, not trying to hold on to the past?
Exactly. The article really encouraged leaders to embrace change, see it as a constant, not something to be feared.
So you're shifting that perspective. Change isn't bad, it's just an opportunity to grow.
Yes, and that shift can be so empowering. The article also talked about seeing challenges as learning experiences. So instead of getting bogged down by setbacks, you ask, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach for next time?
It's that growth mindset, knowing you can always learn and evolve, even when things get tough.
Exactly. And that mindset builds resilience, not just in yourself, but in your whole team. The article also suggested encouraging your team to experiment. Be willing to pivot if something's not working. And see feedback as a gift, not a criticism.
So adaptive thinking is this blend of flexibility, resilience, and that commitment to always learning and growing.
Absolutely. And it's a skill that's just becoming more and more important.
Okay, so we've explored these four powerhouses: critical thinking, strategic thinking, creative thinking, and adaptive thinking. It feels like to be truly exceptional, a leader needs to be able to, blend them all together. It's almost like, I don't know, a master weaver creating this complex tapestry.
That's a great analogy. It really is
Mhm.
like weaving those different styles together. And it's
Yeah.
not about mastering just one, it's about having that versatile mindset, being able to switch between them as needed.
Yeah, like knowing the right tool for the job, kind of like a chef, right?
Oh, I like that.
They know exactly when to use a pinch of salt, a dash of spice to make that perfect dish.
Exactly. So imagine you're hit with a tough challenge at work. Maybe a new competitor is shaking things up.
Ooh, yeah, that's a stressful one.
Right. Or maybe you've got to make some tough budget cuts.
Ugh, okay, I'm already feeling the pressure just thinking about it. Where do you even start with something like that?
Well, first, you put on that critical thinking hat we talked about, gather the info, look at the data, talk to the people involved, really get to the root of the issue.
So no knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah.
Make that step back. Be analytical.
Exactly. Then, once you have a handle on the problem, you shift gears. Put on your strategic thinking hat. What's the long-term vision here? How does this challenge fit into the big picture?
So you're not just thinking about right now, you're thinking about those long-term consequences.
Right. You're playing chess, not checkers, thinking several moves ahead. And once you've got that strategic landscape mapped out, then it's time to get creative.
Ooh, yes. Brainstorm time. Let those ideas flow, even the crazy ones.
Absolutely. Remember, sometimes the most innovative solutions come from those ideas that seem a little out there at first. Encourage your team to think differently, make those connections, and don't be afraid to push the boundaries.
Create that space where innovation can, like, start. And once you have a bunch of potential solutions, adaptive thinking time.
Exactly. Which solution is the most flexible?
Yeah.
Which one lets you adjust along the way? Because things change. Right.
Constantly.
So you got to be ready to pivot. So you've analyzed the problem with critical thinking, consider the strategic implications, brainstorm those creative solutions, and picked the most adaptable path forward.
Wow, it's quite the process, but I can see how powerful it is to use all these different ways of thinking. Like you said, that mental tapestry.
Exactly. Each style plays its part, leading to a more, well-rounded and effective approach to leadership.
And you know what I think is so cool? These thinking skills aren't just for leaders. They're for anyone who wants to handle tough situations, solve problems, make smarter decisions.
That's such an important point. These are skills anyone can develop, no matter where they are in an organization.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners today?
Well, the power of thought in leadership, it's not just about having brilliant ideas. It's about building this flexible, adaptable mindset that helps you approach challenges from all angles. It's about using critical analysis, strategic foresight, creative innovation, and being able to adapt as things change.
We've given everyone a mental workout today.
We have. And remember, this isn't just about individual growth. It's about creating that culture of critical thinking, strategic planning, creative problem solving, and adaptability within teams and organizations.
Can you imagine if everyone in a company thought this way?
It would be amazing. The possibilities are endless.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we have a challenge for you. Pick one of these 4 thinking styles, just one.
Okay.
And for the next week, really try to use it. Actively practice it.
Yes. Put it to the test.
Exactly. Whether it's at work, at home, or just in your everyday life. See how that shift in your thinking can make a difference.
And we want to hear about it. What insights did you have? What challenges did you face?
Come share your thoughts. Keep this conversation going.
Because this deep dive, it's really about all of us becoming more mindful, intentional thinkers, more in control of our thoughts, more empowered to use them.
So keep those mental muscles working.
Keep thinking.
And until next time, happy thinking.